And there we go.
Shoot my cracker.
And we are live. Hi, everybody. We are here for another live painting tutorial. Please let me know in the comments below, or the comments actually, the live chat on the side of the player on YouTube. I guess it's below if you're watching on a phone, probably.
I don't know where it is. I've only seen it on the laptop.
Yeah, well, just let us know if you can see us and hear us, and that's a huge help. I am Lindsay, the Frugal Crafter, here with Sarah.
Hello.
And we are going to paint this this wonderful picture that my friend Tracy took. She I saw this on her Instagram and I asked her if I could use it as painting inspiration, and she said yes. So we are going to do that, and I did put a pattern on my my website, thefrugalcrafter.wordpress.com. There's a link in the description. And what I did here to because this is a gorgeous picture and I loved it, but the things that I think would make it a more pleasing composition would be to not have this pastry and this coffee cup the same size. Those ellipses are about the same size. So by making a larger cup of coffee, which is about the size I drink, actually I changed it from a cup of tea to a cup of coffee because I think coffee goes better with pie. And I accentuated the heart center in the pastry. And basically, you know, that was pretty much it. Just basically changing the size of the cup and moving it over just to make the composition kind of have a V format and a path that can guide your eye through the painting. This video is sponsored by jerrysartorama.com. All the supplies that I'm using you can find there. You can find your favorite brands and stock up at extra low prices. You can also find a link to their website in the video description. These are the colors I'm using. Yellow ochre, perylene maroon, which is kind of like an Indian red. I'm using rose madder and Prussian blue. And then I'll be mixing the other colors that I need with those for basic colors. So we have our primaries, and I have this kind of like earthy tone, which is kind of like a red. Use what you have. If you have to add a couple colors to get the mixes that I'm getting, that's totally fine. Okay, so we are going to begin by using a large brush to wet the background. We're not going to wet the plate or the mug. And if you have any questions for me as we're going along, make sure you type them in all caps for Sarah, and she can relay them to me. And if we do get duplicate questions throughout the broadcast, if I already answered them, I'm only answering a question once. So just scroll back to the beginning of the video because it's already been answered. And again, why do I say that at the beginning of the show? It's not like anybody, it's gonna, when somebody comes in half an hour late, that's not gonna apply to
Well,
them.
we also have a lot of regulars, though, that will explain it to maybe some new people if they're confused or
Oh,
frustrated.
yeah.
We have a lot of great moderators. We have a lot of great regulars who help out with questions and help guide the new frugal people in the frugal world.
That's right. So everybody seeing us and hearing us okay?
Yep, and we have a
All
question.
right.
Flying Dream, I have already painted a lot of your watercolor tutorials, and I wondered if you have a gallery from your YouTube students, and if I could send you a photo of from my paintings.
I don't have a gallery, but a lot of students will post on Facebook. I have, if you go to facebook.com/thefrugalcrafter, you'll find the Frugal Crafter community where you can share your work, and that's probably the best place because a lot of people are on Facebook. It's a great way to connect with other friends here.
Tracy Allen is here today.
Oh, hey, Tracy. Tracy is the one who donated this photo, and I put a link to her Instagram account on my website. So if you want to click over there and follow her, she is just an amazing photographer and a dear friend. I'm going to start by putting some yellow ochre in the background. And that's pretty strong. So what I'm going to do, because I didn't tap it out of my palette, I'm just going to give it a couple spritzes to help spread it around a little bit. So I have way more than I need, so I'm just going to start spreading that around a little bit. These are the new Mission Gold paints that I was using earlier, so I haven't gotten used to how pigmented and strong they are. These are the pure pigment colors. I'm actually going to kind of move some of that off of my painting. And I'm going to add a little bit of the maroon in there. And I think I'll put a little bit of Prussian blue in there so I can get kind of a gray because that yellow is really strong. There, that's nicer. Get this tabletop done. And again, I did not wet the mug or the plate. How many people do we have with us right now?
We have 256 watching.
Wonderful.
Survey Geyer, how are you two? How are you today, Lindsay?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Hot? Because it's darned hot here in Maine today.
Well, I think we're supposed to get some thunder showers, so I'm hoping that it doesn't affect our broadcast.
Well, it didn't look overcast or cloudy coming in. It was bright and sunny, and people were out and about yard sailing on the way here.
Yes, endless yard sale in town.
That's right.
Last night, Jason and I, to celebrate our anniversary, went to Shakespeare Under the Stars in the
Oh,
Brewer. That was
yes.
really nice.
Good weather for it.
Oh, it was excellent.
Oh, yeah. What is that? 15?
15 years, yeah.
Yeah. Woo! Gracie Shack. Hi, Lindsay. My first painting party this evening. Any advice? I am so nervous. We are doing watercolor mixed media art. Your support means so much, Lindsay.
Oh, well, good luck. I say just be positive and encouraging, and that's the best thing, I think. People go to a painting party to have fun and socialize, and it's more about, how you make them feel more than what you teach them, I think, in a lot of respects. I just took the maroon, the Paraline maroon. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, and the Prussian blue, and that's making a really nice dark. And the reason it doesn't make a purple is because those two colors are not close to purple on the color wheel. Since they veer away from there, they give you a nice dark color. And I'm just putting in some of my shadowy areas there. And we're working wet into wet in this background. And if you feel like you get too much on there, just grab a paper towel and blot it. Never rub your paper because it can damage it. Just blot. And I'm also going to go ahead and do the coffee at this point. I feel like I got my shadow a little darker up there. That mix was a little darker this time. I'm just going to bring a little bit more of that under there to harmonize and balance my picture. Also, if your plate is a little lopsided, when you're doing your shadows, you can correct some of that. But really, don't fuss about it too much. I know my pattern, I was noticing my pattern, and I was thinking, I think I came out a little too far on this side, probably because I sketch it really sloppily in pencil, and then I go and refine it. So if you have any weird bits, just go ahead and correct it when you put your background in. All right, I'm going to switch to a smaller brush because this one is pretty big. I am going to go with number 8 round. I'm going to mix up some more of that nice dark with the maroon and the Prussian blue. And I'm going to go in and add it into my coffee cup. A little more on the red side there. That's a little dark. And you can see how it almost makes a black there. I don't want to have everything the same color, so now I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow ochre and add it right into that mix. I recommend if you're unsure about what you're going to use for painting, make a little swatch card. Anytime I have a little scrap of watercolor paper or even drawing paper, it doesn't have to be expensive paper. This is cheap stuff. I swatch out my colors and make sure I can mix the colors that I need for my composition before I start painting. That way I won't end up grabbing a color that's not going to work or that's going to make my painting muddy or that's just going to introduce more colors than I need. I feel like your composition is stronger if you stick with a more limited palette.
Arts and Crafts by Michael. How often do you watercolor?
As often as I can. I do probably 2 tutorials a week on the channel that's watercolor. But I'll sit at the beach and I'll paint when my kids are swimming. And I might, I just keep a little watercolor pan kit in my car and I'll use it when I get a chance. I feel like I want a little more of that maroon in there. So even though these are earthy colors and I'm kind of making mud on purpose, it's not going to be a really muddy mud. It's going to be a lively mud. So that's kind of what we want. I also want to mix some grays because when we're doing our pastry here, we're going to need some subtle gray colors because we're doing white icing. And I want the gray to be kind of like cool. So I'm going to take a little bit of the Prussian blue and the rose madder. I think it's rose madder. Yes, rose madder, and that's going to give us a nice dull purple that will be a really good gray.
Rich Bowden is here
Oh,
under
hey, Rich.
the Spin Doctor. His website has a list of what Mission Gold paints contain in terms of pigment.
Oh,
So
good.
if anybody's curious, he has that on his website. Because like you were saying, the Mission paint pure pigments are pretty strong.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and then there's 36 set, which is probably the most popular set, has a lot of mixes in it. So I don't know if he has those listed as well, but that's good to know. I'm also going to go in, I think right now I'm going to go in and get that red jam type stuff here. And I'm going to use a red matter right straight to begin with. Rose matter, rather. I love this color. And this set that I got has a lot of reds, so if you don't like red that much, you might not care for this set as much as just buying tubes.
Michael Deerdorf. Hi, Sarah and Lindsay. I asked a few weeks ago about my kids, and my daughter Elizabeth had fun. He was the one looking for ideas on how to get kids into crafts.
Oh, yeah.
And he said his daughter had a good time, so he's happy about that.
Oh, good.
Omar Sisena, what kind of brushes are you using? How much are they?
Sure. Well, I use a lot of different brushes, and I really recommend these. These are the Mimic brushes, M-I-M-I-K, and they are designed to mimic squirrel and sable. So they've got the red handled ones, or they're kind of like I don't know, like a mahogany handle. And these are the Mimic Kalinskis. They have a little bit more snap and stiffness. And then you've got the squirrels, which are extra absorbent and extra juicy. They come to a really fine point too, but they're not quite as snappy. These are excellent watercolor brushes, and they're not very expensive. I've got the sets. I'm thinking the sets of like, I'll show you here. I've got two sets. This is what came in those sets. So the gray ones were in a set together and the red ones were in a set together. I'm just going to flip it here so you can see. I'm thinking, and they came from Jerry's Autorama, which was a sponsor, so I didn't purchase them, just to be completely honest. But I'm thinking the sets are about $40 each. But you do have a wide variety of brushes, and you probably wouldn't need any others. The only thing else, well, no, there is flats in the squirrel too. Either way, I would probably say the Kolinsky might be a little bit more useful if you're a beginner because it's not as absorbent. I also like the Royal and Langnickel brushes, the Majestic and the Aqualon, because they have a plastic handle. This is a Majestic. This is not an Aqualon, but this is my very old first watercolor brush ever, my 1/2 inch Alvin, but the Aqualons have handles like this, Aquarel scraper handles. But if you take care of your brushes, they will last you many, many decades. So just to put that out there. Any, excuse me, you can find the Aqualons and the Majestic brushes at your big box stores, and the Mimic brushes are exclusively at Jerry's Autorama. So it just depends on where you shop and what you want for brushes, but those are both really good bets. I'm going to take some of the, oh, that's not the right color. I'm going to take some of the red rose madder that we were using and just a little touch of Prussian blue just to deepen it. It's mostly red, just a smidgen of the blue. And it's giving me almost like a dark grape color here. I can shift my palette over. It's right. Let me move that over. You can kind of see that. And I'm going to put some of that in the edges of this tart here. So that it will be kind of like the shadows that the icing is casting on the little tart. And also show kind of some depth in here if I just put some here and there, but mostly on the edges. And the edges are rough because we're going to be doing some little icing here in a minute. And then the next thing I want to do is actually put some like seeds in here. And then once we do this, we cannot fuss with it anymore because it will mix and be muddy. And I want to tip this a little bit because I see we've got glare on here. Maybe if I stick that brush under there, it can. I'm still getting a little glare. There we go. And I'm just going to take, I think I'm actually going to switch to this brush because it's not as absorbent. It's a synthetic. This is the Royal and Langnickel Majestic. And I'm going to grab the yellow ochre because that's a yellow I'm using. I don't need to dip into another yellow for this. And I'm just going to go ahead and dab in some seeds, and they just kind of blossom a little bit. And you just want to make sure you don't disturb it too much. Just kind of dab them in and let them be. They should look like little seeds kind of under the surface. And then you have to leave it alone. And we can't paint our white icing quite yet because it will get into it'll make the red paint wick out. Now another advantage of having a fully synthetic brush versus a natural hair brush or a brush that is meant to mimic natural hair is that you can control your water a lot better, and that can be helpful when you're working in shadows. So here I have this dark that I mixed. It was the maroon and the Prussian blue. I'll make a little bit more of that just to make sure we have enough. And we're going to be using that for our shadows on our ceramics here. And what I like to do sometimes is take my spray bottle and spray a little water on my palette. That way I don't get too much water, but I can easily drag a little bit of water into my puddle to lighten it up. And what I'm going to do is go here around the edge of my, my little tartlet here and add the shadows. And on my pattern that I put on my website, I cross-hatched in the shadows so you know where the shadows are, but don't transfer those cross-hatches onto your painting because you don't want to see all those marks typically.
Kimosabi, do you have any tips for those of us whose drawing needs a lot of work? Thanks from South Africa.
You're very welcome. My tip would be trace. Tracing will teach you about drawing, and there's nothing to be ashamed of with tracing. When you trace, your mind gets to see what is actually there instead of what your brain thinks is there. Make sure you don't get any puddles while you're doing your shadows, otherwise you'll get backwash and it won't look right in a shadow. So something you can do is hold up a piece of plexiglass or glass and just look through it and draw with a dry erase marker on the glass. And you'll be really drawing what you see as opposed to what you think you're seeing. So there's nothing wrong with that, and eventually you will not need to trace anymore because you will know what is supposed to be there. I'm also adding the shadows on the white plate as I work, cleaning my brush, and I'm going to drag that out with a damp brush. And the advantage of the colors I've mixed here is that they're both easily liftable sedimentary colors.
Arts and Crafts by Michael, what do you most like to paint?
Gosh, it really depends. I really like to do still life, like flowers and scenes like this. I've been I'm in oh, it's World Watercolor Month. I do want to mention this. So there's a group on Facebook that is this World Watercolor Month, and it is really wonderful. The inspiration is just so great, and I highly recommend joining the group. I'm seeing so many fun paintings right now. It's just so inspiring. But July is World Watercolor Month, so people are sharing paintings that they've done, like urban sketches are sharing their paintings, and beginners are sharing their paintings, and advanced artists are sharing their paintings, and it's so inspiring to see all the different types of paintings that people are doing. Something will inspire me that will be different than what I've painted before. Like I don't typically do landscapes, but I like to paint if I'm sitting out at the beach or something. I don't know. I'm inspired by things I see, I guess. Convoluted answer.
That's okay. We
Mixing
have
a little
several
bit more.
congratulations on
Whoops.
your anniversary. Joe Maskey, Gracie Shack says
Thanks, guys.
congratulations.
I accidentally got some green paint there. I had to clean it off my off my palette before I made a mistake. Let's see. There's my Prussian blue. I'm still working on those tiny little dabs too that I squirted out on my palette last week. That's
MD Econ, how did you know where to shade in this picture?
Well, I looked at the picture, and you can see here in the photograph that Tracy took, you could see the shadows here. Okay, sometimes you have to look a little bit, but it's there usually when you're looking. That's why it's really great if you can paint from still life um, where you are. Like if you're at sitting at the table and you're looking at the pastry or whatever. If you can paint from the still life that you actually see, you'll be able to see where your light's coming from, and it'll make a lot more sense.
Caro 85174, have you tried Senlier watercolor paints?
I haven't, and I've had a few people ask me about them. I just purchased a few new sets of paint, so Selenier is going to have to wait a little bit. They're kind of pricey. But no, I've heard great things about them.
Missy Kern, I'm going on vacation to Maine tomorrow. What is the average summer temperature?
Well, what would you say? 70s, mid
Well, we've had a
70s?
very warm summer and it's supposed to be in the high 80s all week, but then at night it will drop down to 60, between 65 and 60 at
Hmm.
night. And honestly, the temperature can rise or drop, so bring your summer stuff, but also bring a pair of pants and a
Hmm.
long sleeve shirt, maybe like a sweatshirt to bring with you to layer.
Yeah, especially if you're going to go on any boats out on the coast or
Yeah,
anything, you're
coast
going to
you
want
definitely
that.
want, yeah.
Or if even if you're going to be outside at night, it does cool off.
Omar Cecina, are there any good vegan brushes out there?
Yeah, the Mimic ones, they're completely animal free.
And your favorite?
Yep, I like them. And there's also Princeton Neptune. They make another one that is meant to mimic animal hair, but is completely synthetic. It's good. They're getting a lot more popular, and they're very good.
Katrina Noel, I just got my first clear mounting stamps and all of my inks beat up on the stamps. How can I keep this from happening?
I would rub them with an eraser and see if that helps. You could also stamp with VersaFine ink and then stamp with your regular ink. I don't find that works quite as well, but a lot of stampers swear by it. And I actually use an emery board and I file mine, but do that with caution. You don't want to ruin
You
your
have the
stamps.
fine grit
Yeah,
side.
yeah. So I've just darkened up some of these shadows using a bluer mix of the maroon and blue, and I'm going to go in and get a little more dark there. And mixing your own grays allows you to control exactly what you're getting.
Gracie Shack, any ideas for a water watercolor? I think she means soluble medium that isn't just paint, more like water-based crayons.
Oh, I would say like well, there's watercolor crayons or water soluble oil pastels. Those are all really, really good. They're thick and creamy and opaque. So they're not exactly like watercolor, but they reconstitute in water like a watercolor will. And I want a little more of a bluer shadow here, so I'm taking a little bit of the Prussian blue, pulling it near my puddle of gray, and just pulling in some of that gray that I mixed until it gets to the tone that I want. I don't want a bright blue, I just want a cool gray, which I'm getting right there. I'm going to add a little water because I feel like that's a little too strong, and I'm going to put some right there, and again, more water and spread it around because that was really dark once I got it on my paper.
A little creative, is watercolor your favorite medium?
Yes.
Jay Clives here too. Hi, I ordered the Magello Mission Gold 36.
Oh, nice.
I know you didn't get that set. Do you have any suggestions on setting it up? Amazon has a set for $57.
That's a set I almost got actually, but when
Julie,
I
go lay down.
when I compared the what the colors were from the pure pigments, I want to see if those pure pigment colors were in the set of 36 and they weren't. I decided to go ahead and get the set of 36. I would set them up in rainbow order, which means like kind of go around as if it was a color wheel. I think there's probably a guide in there because it seems like most people I see with that set are setting them up the same way. So I think there might be actually a guide included in there. And they do have YouTube tutorials, I've heard. I haven't seen any of them, but I heard they have some nice YouTube tutorials which would explain exactly how to do that. I feel like I want some warmth on the plate, so I'm going to go in with, take a little yellow ochre and grab a little bit of that grayish color, but the grayish, it's more on the red side, just so I get kind of a warmer gray. I don't want anything too bright, but I do want to brighten up some areas. There's so much color in white. It's very deceiving. And I'm going to move over to the cup. And the mix I want to use for the cup is yellow ochre and the maroon. And it gives you this nice, pretty, almost like Potter's Pink, which is one of Rich Bowden's favorite colors. And I never heard about it until he was talking about it. And I was thinking, God, that's an ugly color. But I'm like, hey, it's perfect for this. I lean more towards neon tendencies than earth tones.
A Greb, do you have any tips for beginner card makers? Thanks.
Beginner card makers. What would you say? Because you probably make more cards than I do.
Go on Pinterest or card making website and copy their design to get a sense of how the materials work, colors that go, and then once you get more comfortable, start putting together your own stuff. Because sometimes if I'm stuck, I'll go on Pinterest, find a card I like, and, not copy it, but take it and use it as an idea for something else, whether it's a color scheme or the image or whatnot. And don't go crazy buying a lot of stuff at first. It's really easy
Mm-hmm.
to buy stuff. And then you get home and you're like, what do I do?
What did I buy this for?
What do I, why do I have so? Because then you end up like me and Lindsay, and the paper is just.
Oh, the paper. Oh, the
Paper.
paper.
Love paper.
I know. What I'm finding is that as a card maker, I don't use a 12 by 12 paper. But I always bought 12 by 12 paper because it's a better deal. You get more,
Yeah.
Per square inch or whatever. And plus I scrapbook too. But I'm always reaching for my 6x6 pads when I'm making cards, and they're so much less. I mean, to get a pad of 6x6 paper, you get all the designs. They're smaller for card making, and the pads cost way less. I mean, per square inch, it's not as good of a deal as the bigger things of scrapbook paper. But as a card maker, you're never going to go through it all. It's a lot of paper.
Right.
And I'm putting some shadows here on this mug. So our light source it's above, but it's also slightly over to the side. So we're getting a shadow below our objects, but then also out a little bit towards the left-hand side. So I just want to make sure that I'm getting more shadow over here on my mug, and I'm doing this all wet into wet because I like what the colors do. And something I learned from Rich, it was really interesting. I love granulating colors, and those are colors that after they dry, you see all these little specks of pigment and a lot of really cool texture. And I didn't really understand. I mean, I understood why some colors granulate because they were mineral colors and the particles are bigger and they didn't absorb into the paper. So I understood that, but I didn't understand that colors granulate more the wetter your paper is. So I've been like purposely making sure that I have areas wetter that I want to granulate. I want them to granulate well. So that's a little tip for you that I am passing on from Dr. Rich Bowden, the spin doctor.
Donna Collins. Hi, Lindsay. What do you do with your paintings when you are done with them?
I sell them typically. I put them in my shop, or sometimes viewers will email me and ask if they can buy them. But yeah, I typically sell them. I don't hang on to much.
Roblyn Clemens. How do suggest a true beginner get started in watercolor painting?
Paint. If you want to learn how to paint, you gotta paint.
Trace and paint.
Trace and paint. Don't worry about anything. Don't. I would start with 6 basic colors, two colors of each primary. Swatch them out. Learn to mix your colors. Um, observe and paint. Observe and paint. Lather, rinse, repeat. That's all you gotta do. You gotta paint. There's no substitute. There's no video you can watch. There's nothing. This book you can read that's a substitute for actually doing the work and painting.
Carol Moore. Which is harder to work with, acrylic or watercolor paint?
I'm not a big fan of acrylic paint. I don't think it's harder to work with. It's just not my cup of tea. It just depends on your personality. I'm a very spontaneous person. I like the way the colors flow and go and do their thing. Um, I don't find the joy when I paint with acrylics that often. I mean, sometimes I do. Sometimes I enjoy it, but for the most part, I feel very stifled when I paint with acrylics. I don't like the time that it takes to set up a palette. That's probably the big thing. I don't like the time that you have to spend squirting out paint and getting ready to paint and cleaning up from painting. I just want to paint. I want the fun. I want to do the fun stuff. I don't want to do the setting up and the cleaning up and all of that stuff. And it's harder on your brushes. But I don't think it's a harder medium. I just think some mediums are better for certain personalities.
Nikki Wilson. What do you like most about painting?
I like, this is why I don't like housework, is what this for the same reason. When I am done a painting, the painting is done. The painting stays done. The painting doesn't come undone when, you know, a gaggle of kids run through with muddy feet. The painting is done. When you do the painting, it is done. You know, you can fuss with it as much as you want until you've got it as done as you want it to be, but once it's done, it is done. That's what I like most about painting. And I can have a sense of accomplishment. I can see I did that. I can clean the house and 10 minutes later, you'd never know I cleaned it. And you know, you don't have that sense of accomplishment. So that's what I like most about painting.
Gracie Shack, what's the weather like in Maine? It's hot here in England right now. It's hot here in Maine
Yep, it's
and
nice though.
sunny and hot, and they're saying maybe thunderstorms later, but we'll see.
I've mixed some really light gray. It's the same two colors. I'm just putting some kind of smooth piping marks. I will have to blot some out because I've got a little bit too much going on here.
Icicle 19, what brushes do you recommend for starters?
I would go with a synthetic. Aqualon is good. Majestic is good. Ebony Splendor is very inexpensive and good, and that's another exclusive Jerry's brush. Um, and then as you get more advanced, go with um, a synthetic like squirrel or a synthetic sable. They're made cruelty free, but they will hold a lot more water. But you probably don't want that as an absolute beginner because it can be a little bit difficult to deal with. I'm just doing these kind of curvy strokes to bring my icing around. And I am going to add some color to my grays. So right now we've got a fairly neutral gray. I am going to grab a little bit of my my red and add it to some of these strokes because it is reflecting the color of the tart. White is never just white.
Roblyn Clemens, does she have novice videos? She is so expert.
Oh, it's all painting one thing is no more difficult than painting something else. You just got to break it down to the basic shapes. That's why I put the pattern down. If you didn't draw or you didn't want to draw, you could get the pattern. Um, there's lots of beginner tutorials. I have one I'm posting tomorrow that's a very beginner seaside postcard that actually I showed it when I showed my watercolor block video, and I actually taught it at the library, and they were all beginners and they all did really well. So I would recommend trying that one, but there are lots of beginner tutorials on my channel. I'm mixing a little bit of a violet kind of gray, and that is Prussian blue plus the rose madder, and that's going to go up into some of these areas. But putting the gray first, I find the mixed gray that we made with our colors we've been using helps keep things from getting too vibrant in our white icing because we don't want our white icing to be really vibrant.
The Spin Doctor, tip for finding shadows in photos. Print on acetate and hold up to light. You will only see the shadow areas.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
You can get inkjet. They're called inkjet transparencies, and you can use them right in your home inkjet printer. All right, I'm going to make the crust. You can see a little bit of the crust, and I'm going to use a little touch of the maroon, mostly yellow ochre. And we're going to paint that in right under here, right between our shadow and our icing. And we can actually drag a little bit of that color up into our icing too, here and there. And just keep a paper towel handy in case you go overboard. You can blot it out. All right. Now we're gonna have to work on that fork, and the fork is metallic and shiny, and I'm gonna show you the photo here. So we could see all kinds of colors. We got some bright blue, which I think might have been a distortion in the camera, but we've got white, we've got lavender, we've got white, we've got gold. we've got a dark gray. So we're going to need to leave our white areas alone, and we're going to need to paint around them. And we can actually work fairly dry because metallics will have hard reflections, so we don't want those colors blended so much. So if you have grays already going on your palette, wonderful. If not, you'll need to mix a little bit, and we'll start off with our darkest color because getting your dark values in first is helpful. So I've got my maroon and my Prussian blue again.
Patrick Rogers. Lindsay, how many watercolor palettes do you have?
Oh my. I plead the fifth.
Enough.
Enough.
Nabilia Nawaz. I bought a watercolor palette which has a white in it. What could I use the white for?
You know, I just kind of, the only time I use it is if I'm desperate and like I need sea spray or something and I didn't mask it, or, and then I'll like, rub a toothbrush on it and then, spatter it. Or I usually don't find much use for it unless I'm trying to do like a gouache painting and I want, to make my watercolors opaque. But even so, I don't find that is a really good substitute for an actual high quality gouache. I just kind of keep my whites. I usually take them out of my palette and throw them in a drawer. And then if I don't know, they'll probably, my kids will throw them away when I die. I don't know.
We'll just bury you with them.
Oh gosh, no. I do not want to take them to the next life.
Katrina Noel. I'm trying to sell watercolor cards, but they don't sell easily. Do you have any tips? They are priced at $5.
Maybe raise your price. They might not think they're real hand painted if they're so inexpensive. I sell mine for $7 and they sell really well. At a local antique mall. You could just have them, not have them in front of the right audience. 5 sounds pretty cheap because I mean you can go to Hallmark and buy a printed card for $5.
Well, now they make them too to make they look like the handmade cards, and they charge $5 for those. What the heck?
Yep.
Carrie Riley, Lindsay, what are all the professional brands you've tried so far?
Oh my goodness. I've tried a lot. And some were just like a tube here and there. A lot of times I'll try a new professional brand when they come out because they'll often be way cheaper because they'll come out as a special introductory price. Um, I don't think I can name them all. I've tried quite a few. Okay, so I've got my darks in there. Now I'm going to take some Prussian blue and knock it off of my palette so it's not so bright. And I'm just kind of picking up some of the nearby grays. So I've got definitely it's almost like a gray blue color. And I'm going to go in and wash in some areas with that. I don't want to get rid of all of my lights though. The brush was too wet. I just blotted my brush off there.
Gracie Shack, Lindsay, does the weather in Maine, or how does the weather in Maine affect your watercolor oil paints?
Oils take a long time to dry. Watercolors, it doesn't really affect them that well because they dry pretty quickly. I think it's more the cold that affects the oil paints if I'm painting in the winter, but not too much. I mean, it's a pretty mild climate. It's cold in the winter, but it's a fairly mild. We're gonna let that dry and move over to the coffee cup again, which should be, it feels pretty dry. It's cool, but I don't think it's wet enough to bother anything. And probably put this flat again. There we go. And we're gonna do our shadows in the coffee cup. And again, we're using you're gonna know how to mix gray by the end of this painting, if nothing else. It's our maroon and Prussian blue
tutorial.
Yes. Yes, and if you feel like you did not get enough color mixing today, then I just enrolled in a class that had very highly recommended to me. It's a Craftsy class called Improve Your Paintings Luminous Watercolor Mixing. And this instructor goes by the same like split primary palette that I recommend beginners start with. It's a wonderful class, and I did link it in the video description. And if you go through my link and purchase that class, it does help keep the tutorials free here on my channel, and I thank you very much. But I wanted to check that out because I've been asked a lot about more color mixing videos, and I do have a color mixing video But people seem to want more in depth, and that would definitely be more in depth. It's 2 hours of color mixing goodness.
Can't have too much color mixing.
Very
Donna
long color.
Collins, is it okay to sell paintings based on your tutorials, or are they for personal use only?
Oh, it doesn't bother me at all. The only thing I ask is that you don't publish them like in a magazine, because I make part of my living by designing paintings for magazines as well. But selling them at a craft fair, I personally don't care. A lot of artists would be against that, but you know, I don't care. But thank you for asking, and
Yes,
always
very nice.
always respect what the artist says on that. Respect, because you don't want to get sued, and it's the right thing to do. But anyway, I'm really particular. I always ask before I paint from somebody's photo, and or use photos from Paint My Photo, because they're there with the express permission of photographers to paint. Asking is always best.
Yes.
A little bit of a shadow right here on the curve of the cup handle.
Nikki Wilson, do you ever paint your family?
No, not really. No, I had before, but not in a long time.
A Little Creative, do you find it difficult to control the pigment with the Mission Gold paints? They seem so strong.
Well, like I mentioned, I did get a little out of control with the yellow in the background, but I find if I tap off my paintbrush and my palette first, it does disperse the pigment a little bit, and it's much easier. But that's not a bad thing, having too much pigment in a color, I don't think.
Should we go lay down? Go. Tracy Allen, Lindsay, I think it is a flower on the plate.
A flower? Oh no.
Ian Jackson, Lindsay, which pro watercolor arts or other artists inspire you?
Oh boy, there's oh boy. I'm drawing a complete blank right now.
All right, we'll skip. We'll come back to it. Kevin Crespo, I am almost done with my Cotman watercolor set. What other watercolor set can I upgrade to? What would you recommend?
These Mission Golds are awfully nice, I have to say, the pure pigment set. And for a milliliter, it's not that much more to go and get the pure pigments versus the 5 milliliter tubes of the 36 colors. I'm really liking these. I think that they're really nicely pigmented, and I don't think that you'll be disappointed with them. And you know, they're on par or cheaper than a lot of other professional watercolors. But if you've done your Cotman, I think you'd be definitely fine. I'm grabbing some of that color onto this mug just because I think it would reflect some of those colors, and I wanted to have a little more color in my mug here.
Shreya T, a lot of the paints you have been reviewing lately are too expensive for me. What are some good but cheap watercolor paints?
You know, a good set that I enjoy and my kids enjoy painting with is the Koi set, and I think Jerry's has it, and they have it for probably 33% off list. Most of their stuff tends to be about 33 to 50% off list. And if not, they have it also at big box stores, and that's full price at big box stores, but you can use your coupons on them, and that's how I got mine. I used a coupon at AC Moore, and because I wasn't sure if I was going to like the paint or not. And that was really nice. It has a lot of mixes. You probably wouldn't want to do a painting with 4 colors because it would get real muddy. You'd have to use some of the pre-mixed colors, but that's definitely an option. I'm adding some of this red to the plate. I feel like it's just a little too blah, and I want to have a little bit of that color kind of reverberating around. But just be very, go very easy with it because it's such a strong pigment. And I also want to add color to the plate so I can go around the icing and make the icing stand out a little bit more. But so yeah, the Koi's are a good bet. Cotman's a good bet. Lucas is a good bet. The Lucas Studio, which is a student grade, they have a set of 12 at Jerry's for $11.99, and it uses the same pigments as the Lucas Professional colors. I did a review of them side by side, and the student ones came out very well. The student line is smaller. It doesn't have as many colors available, but the colors they use are good. They're light fast. They're still using the good pigments that the um that are going to last for you that the professional line uses, but they don't have the option of the more expensive pigments. It's kind of like your series A colors, which would be like just paints they're cheaper to produce because the minerals are more common. But those are an excellent buy if you're looking for something that's not going to fade, that you can get some good results with. In fact, I would buy the student set to teach with. Right now I'm teaching with the Cotmans at my local library, but I never had used the Lucas at that time because I thought about buying them, but I just didn't dare. They were much more affordable, but I didn't dare, so I got the Cotmans. But I would not hesitate using the Lucas in a class. So that'd probably be the best bet for your money would be Lucas. I'm adding a little more yellow ochre too. Again, I feel like I just want to make that white plate a little darker than the white icing, so I'm just kind of glazing colors here and there, trying to get some life. Sometimes when you work a painting a lot, it gets kind of dead, and I feel like I just need to bring in a little more life to this. Who's painting along? Let us know in the comments if you are attempting to paint right now. I know it's hard to paint in chat.
While chatting and watching.
Yeah. Usually the ones that are painting aren't chatting. They're usually just painting in there. They'll leave a comment after saying they painted along, which is so cool.
Lisa Nordstrom, what are your recommendations for watercolor markers and colored pencil brands?
If price is no object, watercolor markers, I really like the Winsor Newton. They don't have a huge selection, but every color they have is light fast. And I also like the Zig Clean color markers, but I don't think those are light fast. But the Winsor Newton ones are. So those are my top pick. And that way you can have, if you're a complete set person, like you have to have you have to have every color that they make, because the problem is real. I suffer from that sometimes. And you can do that because it's not like there's a zillion colors. There's like 48 colors or something. And the Zig Clean colors, they have, I think, 60, maybe more colors. And they're really nice, but I don't think they're light fast. Did she ask about
And
anything?
pencils.
And pencils. Um, Probably watercolor pencils or regular pencils.
She just said colored pencils, so I'm assuming she means regular pencils.
Okay, so if it's regular colored pencils, probably I like Derwent's Color Soft. A lot of people disagree with me on that. I really like them. If you like Prismacolors but you're disgusted with how they break, try Color Soft. Polychromos by Faber-Castell is most people's favorite choice. They're a little more expensive. I like them. They're more transparent, and I usually like a more opaque colored pencil personally. So that's why I prefer the Color Soft. And I'm not a real detail person. I'm more of like a big picture type of person. So that would also make me like the Color Soft more than the Polychromos. So you'd have to decide what kind of artist you are. And if you're looking for watercolor pencils, actually the Spectrum Noir has a watercolor pencils line that are really nice and light fast and fairly inexpensive because they kind of fall into the craft category, but they're really nice. All right, so now we're just gonna do some finishing touches here. I'm gonna do a little yellow ochre on the fork. Let's grab some of that right there.
Lori Reeder, are you going to be doing more pan pastel lessons soon? Since I got my set, I am kind of overwhelmed with them.
Yes, I do intend to, hopefully this summer, but it might have to wait till the kids are back in school. Um, but I definitely am intending on it.
Gracie Shack and Miss Kitten 03 are painting along.
Cool.
Tracy Allen is chatting.
That's all right. You did enough. You took the picture.
She took the picture. She just, Carolyn Nelson is trying to keep up with you.
All right. I'm gonna grab a little of the Prussian blue and that red, the rose madder, and I'm adding another shadow in here because I feel like it needs to be a little darker. Just around the edges of the icing, and I can kind of smooth things now that I actually have the icing painted here. That's a little
Gail Gasson, how do you rate Tombow markers?
Oh, they're very nice. I like them a lot.
A Greb, what is your favorite watercolor painting you have done?
Oh, I did one, and it was actually in the Decorative Painter magazine, and it was a canning jar full of eggs, and there was a sign. It was entitled "Eggs 5 cents," and there was a sign that said "Eggs 5 cents," and there was a cracked open egg on a tablecloth. It was mixed media watercolor and colored pencil piece. That was probably my favorite one. All right, I'm just gonna put some final shadows in here. I've got the maroon and Prussian blue.
Carolyn Nelson, how do you keep your mixes from getting too watery?
Well, you can blot your brush on your paper towel if you feel like you're getting into that realm of it being too watery. I think it's just practice and experience, and the more you paint, the more um, you'll get an idea of how wet to make it. I'm just gonna do a little sliver of a shadow under here.
Gail Gasson, I need to get some watercolor crayons. They are suggesting Caran d'Ache. Is there a good one not as expensive?
Caran d'Ache is probably the best, but Lyra is not bad, and they're pretty easy to find. You have to get them online, but they're not too bad. But you can always buy Caran d'Ache individually too. You don't have to go buy a big set. You could even get like a set of Lyra and then work your, kind of replace them one at a time, or just get a couple Caran d'Ache colors. I'm deciding whether or not I want to put the little flowers on the edge of the plate. I'm feeling like it needs something that's a little plain. What Chewy's barking at?
Who knows? I'm gonna go yell at her in a minute.
Oh my gosh. I just need a slice of a little shadow under that fork too to bring it.
I think she stopped. Probably from all the traffic from the
Oh yeah,
yard
the yard
sale.
sales.
I told the girls not to let her outside because I don't want her bolting across the road because someone's walking or a car goes by.
Yep.
Stubborn old lady that she is.
I think I will put the little flowers. There's a couple little flowers on the plate there. And so I just need to make sure I kind of space them out pretty good. So I'm going to mix the yellow ochre and Prussian blue to make a green. I'm just going to do it in one of these little wells over here, the bottom of my palette. And it's not going to make a really intense green because yellow ochre is not an intense yellow. And I'm just going to kind of approximate. Oh, that was a little wet right there. I'm just putting some dabs. I'm not even going to try to make it look like any particular flower. Let's let that dry before I paint that there. And then I think I'll do, maybe I'll do little blue flowers because the Prussian blue hasn't had much action on its own. Just do little swirly. This plate came from the Dollar Tree. They didn't have very talented pottery painters working on that. Oh well.
Well, that's okay.
So I get my fine dining ware at the Dollar Tree.
Well,
I have to worry about breaking it.
when you have children.
Yeah. You can't have nice things.
Tracy Allen, how is Lindsay chatting? It's me, Tracy. It's Sarah. I chat for her and answer questions out loud. Well, Lindsay paints.
Just a couple little leaves in the middle here.
So I'm using Lindsay's name, but it's not actually Lindsay.
The secret's out.
Or maybe it is Lindsay. I'm just her doppelganger and
Ooh.
nobody knows.
More like evil twin.
I'm the doctor. It's really the doctor.
Oh yes, I got my Doctor Who mug that you got me for my
Yes,
birthday.
it's
Water.
nice looking mug there.
Mmm, it's wicked fancy.
It is.
All right, what do you think of this? What does this need? What do you think?
You know what you want to do. You know you want to
I know I want to
splatter.
splatter, but I think it might be inappropriate splattering if I
Well,
splattered this
there's no
picture.
flowers or anything.
Although a coffee splat. Oh, I would like to put a
That's
coffee
true.
cup ring on there.
You could do that.
Yeah, let me see. I gotta find something round. My coffee cup's too big. I gotta find something round that I can dip in my paint and make a. This might totally ruin the painting, guys, but I'm gonna do
We're gonna
it.
find out.
I'm gonna make some coffee here, and I'm gonna mix it, and I'm going to find something
Hi,
to dip in
Joey.
there.
Did you scare away whatever was outside?
I actually have a coffee cup stamp, but that feels like cheating, so I gotta find
That
something
would be cheating.
round that I can stamp
The
in
spin
there.
doctor says I'm your PA. Just on Fridays.
Well, like personal assistant?
Yes.
I'm gonna use. Oh, what I could do is actually stamp it in water and then drip my
Ooh.
paint into it. So if I get it in the wrong spot. So I'm using a glue bottle here if you can't tell what this is. Okay. And then I'll use my paintbrush to drop in some of that color. Have like so I can get my splatter on. Basically, so I can bother Rich Bowden with the splatters. I know he's watching.
JLT 110. Are pastel pencils a must for fine detail, or could pencil crayons work?
Oh yeah, you could use colored pencils.
Ian Jackson says you should use real coffee.
Oh, I should. I don't have any down here though. Now I got to splatter a little bit though because
One day.
looks a little wrong. Looks a little weird. I gotta do something.
There, you can get your splatter and your coffee ring in there.
Somebody was awful. Boy, Tracy, you're awfully messy having this coffee ring. Tracy's like, I did not spill my coffee.
Not my mess.
That's not my mess.
I've seen her craft room. It is not messy. Oh, Rich. Arg! Better! With a frowny face.
The frowny face. Messing up somebody's ADD. I think I need a coffee ring over here too. This is the type of a coffee shop you don't want to go to because there's all kinds of like dirt on the table.
The spin doctor, my inner control freak, can't handle spatter.
Oh well, he is an actual scientist, so
that's true. Nicole Faulkner, is it difficult to get Van Gogh watercolors to flow? Mine won't.
I don't have any. I think they are kind of like a student grade paint, so a lot of times student grade paint have a lot of fillers in them to make them economical, and that's why they don't flow. So that could be the reason. If anybody else has used Van Gogh that knows, then please let us know, because I think that's probably the reason. I ordered a palette, and it had paints in it, but the reason I ordered it is because half pans are so expensive. Like just to buy empty half pans is like 6 for $10, and this palette had 18 half pans of watercolor in it, plus a water brush, and it was $12. So I got that, and the paints were very kind of streaky and almost like seemed like tempera that you would use in grade school, and I think it's just because of all the fillers. But I was happy to get that for the palette was really nice and the pans were nice. But I'll just pop up the colors and put my own colors in there. All right.
JPC 13 Art, you should try painting with actual coffee.
If I had my coffee cup down here, I probably would have tried that.
Spin doctor's biting on a wooden spoon, trying to get through the spatter. It's capitalized.
Oh, good grief. You need to chill out. And
this is good for you, Rich. It's good for the brain to
break out of your comfort zone.
Get out of your comfort zone. Lil Joker Jr., what do you think of Prismacolor watercolor?
I don't like their pencils that much. I know some people rave about them, and I bought a couple colors to try out, and I was not impressed, so I didn't buy any more. Maybe the colors I chose weren't very good, but I'm not a fan of their watercolor pencils, and I don't think they have just regular watercolors. I feel like I want to have drippy coffee coming off the edge of this cup
You
too.
should.
I think
I
so.
think you should.
Yeah, we're gonna have a spill of coffee.
Ooh, because that would be me.
Yeah, and then we'll do a little dripping. There we go. Yeah.
See, Ian Jackson, he paints with coffee and says it's interesting. Gail Gasson is great. Coffee works great for staining furniture.
Oh, my husband. That only made it to 15 years because of the stain.
It was coffee stained furniture that just tipped him over the edge.
I gotta tip this. I'm gonna have a little coffee spill down the mug. Oh, I like that.
Oh, well.
Do you not like that?
I can't see it from this angle. Oh, I like it. It's pretty realistic.
And it creates a visual stream through the painting. Pay no attention to the naysayers. Hate is gonna hate.
Well, the Spin Doctor, I like the spatter effect when finished, but don't have the nerve to do it often. But did do it in my Bockingford Tinted Papers review video, just for Lindsay.
Was that the one you called me cheap in the very best way, Rich?
Probably.
All right.
In the very best way.
I think we're done here. What do you think?
I can't.
Or maybe I need some jam on the plate.
Ooh,
yes, I need jam on the plate. We need jam on the plate. Tracy's probably like, what did I let my picture be used for?
No, she says you should paint a bite out of the tart.
Oh, I wonder if I could do.
You could have some jam on by the coffee spill too.
Oh, that's true. I gotta keep it like that fine balance between whimsical still life and crime scene investigation. I want a little card that says Exhibit A. Oh, the places the mind goes when you paint.
Oh, no. It's the heat. It's squashing our brains.
It's not too hot in the studio though.
Oh, the Spin Doctor. I've called you worse in one coming this week.
Oh no! So it keeps you watching. So it keeps me watching.
Oh, we have a suggestion for crumbs too.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
We want this to be a realistic painting.
Oh, I should put a little something on the fork maybe.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I don't know if I can though. Let me see if I have something I can scrub. I gotta scrub a little paint out if I'm gonna do that. I'm so prepared. I don't have any of my.
Well, we didn't know we were gonna take the painting this far.
No. We'll scrub a little out here. I need a fresh paper towel. That one's pretty soaked. So we're going to press, blot, never rub our paper towel.
The Spin Doctor. I love how we descend into hysterics by the end. Sarah Longshore. Hi, Lindsay and Sarah. What's a good watercolor marker brand? Tired of wasting my money on no-goes.
Winsor Newton. And shop around. I got mine from Jerry's and I paid about $2.50 a marker because I found them on sale and I could use a coupon on top. Sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. It just depends on the coupon that you're using. I think I used Welcome 25 and I was able to get that deal.
Ian Jackson says step away from the painting.
I probably should, but I think it's too late. I've already committed. I gotta finish it. I gotta see it through. That's all right. You can I can advise people to stop watching at a certain point.
Yes. Now, if you can't handle it anymore, just turn it off.
Yeah.
And finish up your Friday.
I look back in my analytics. Why did everyone stop watching it? At 55 minutes. Let me just blast that with a heat tool for a second so I can get a nice crisp line around the edge so I've got a crumb.
Gail Gasson. Ask Lindsay if I should return my set of Prismacolor colored pencils.
I like the colored pencils. I don't like the watercolor pencils. I would say if the leads aren't falling out when you sharpen them, then keep them. I like my Prismacolors. I think they would be my favorites except for the lead issue and the breakage issue. Since they've been made in, I think made in Mexico, they haven't been as reliable as they used to be.
Survey Guy Oregon, Sarah and Lindsay, thank you so much for the fun and knowledge. You're
You're
welcome.
welcome. We aim to please. We aim to please or completely disregard what you want. It's a tough.
We're
tough
pleased.
We're
and that's
pleased.
all that matters.
A little shadow into the frosting there. A couple little crumbs. You do a crumbs and yellow ochre. And a little bit of juice on, a little bit of jam on the fork here.
We'll call this, yeah, I mean, you know, this might not be the first tart. This could be the third or fourth tart.
It was a good tart here too. Tart. So, you know, excuse me for living. I want to have two pieces of pie. I want to have two tarts. None of your business. How many I want to.
You know, it happens. Sometimes two tarts happen.
Yeah, sometimes it tastes like another.
Older and dirt, you need a chip out of the rim of the cup.
Oh, that would be good. I don't know. There's probably a chip under that coffee stain. Yeah,
that's why it's dripping off the edge there.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna call it good though. I think this is done.
Yep.
I want to thank Tracy for letting me totally demolish her picture.
No. It's not that. It's
artistic license.
Yes, thank you. That is the words I was looking for. Gail Gasson says she got the whole set at Amazon on Prime Day for $98.
The whole set of Prismacolors. Oh, nice. You know what? I think I paid $100 for my set of 144, and this was like 12 years ago. No, it was more than that. It was before I had kids. It was probably 15 years ago. That was probably before I got married, so it was longer than that. And I'm happy with them. Just occasionally you get that color that just keeps breaking and it's aggravating. But and that was before. That's when they were still all made in the United States. And now since the sometimes the leads aren't centered, they'll break when you sharpen them, and it's kind of a drag. But definitely, you know, if they ship to you well, then they may be just fine. So try them, see what you think. Don't go by anybody else's opinions. And that will do it for today. If you want to learn more about color mixing, check out that class from Craftsy that I recommended. It's linked in the video description. And if you need any art supplies, check out our sponsor, Jerry's Artorama. They have everything, pretty much anything. They do carry the Mission Gold paints individually as well, too. If you just want to try a couple tubes to see if you like them, that's a great way to go about it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give a thumbs up before you leave. Leave a comment if you have any questions that I didn't get to. I'll be happy to answer them in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.